The morning light filtered through the reinforced glass of Camp Helios, glinting off the sleek blue panels that lined the training hall. Specialist Mira Dalton lay prone on the polished floor, her cheek pressed against the stock of her rifle. The barrel gleamed with human craftsmanship, matte black, solid, mechanical, utterly archaic in the eyes of those who stood behind her. She ignored the faint hum of alien energy weapons being calibrated nearby. Her breathing slowed. She adjusted her scope, tracking the distant targets through the transparent wall that looked out over the green expanse of the range. Behind her, a low, rumbling laugh echoed through the chamber. 3 towering Varkun soldiers stood by the control consoles, their cobalt skin faintly luminescent under the training lights. Each wore the standard exo-armor of their kind, sleek, reactive plating powered by bioelectric nodes. Their weapons floated beside them, guided by neural tethers. Primitive, one of them muttered, his yellow eyes narrowing on Myra's rifle. She uses combustion and metal. Does she plan to scare the targets to death? The others chuckled, the sound more vibration than laughter. Mira pretended not to hear. She adjusted the rifle's bipod and continued aligning the optics. But the words burrowed under her skin. She had spent 3 years proving herself in every joint combat exercise, and still the aliens treated her as if she were a museum exhibit, a reminder of a brutal, outdated species. The flag patch on her sleeve suddenly felt heavier, as though she carried all of humanity's pride alone. Rithak, the loudest of the trio, stepped closer. "You humans cling to the past," he said, crouching beside her. "You build weapons that depend on physics instead of thought. You must enjoy missing your targets." His grin revealed sharp, silvered teeth. "Maybe," Mira said evenly, "we just like knowing what happens when the power goes out." That earned a pause, then another rumble of laughter, though tinged now with curiosity. Before Rithak could retort, the air shifted. The soft mechanical whir of the door opening silenced everyone. Commander Surath entered. His presence filled the hall. Taller than any Varkan Mira had seen, his armor pulsed faintly with neon blue circuits that traced along his chest and arms, each glow synchronized with his steady breathing. He surveyed the room, his gaze sharp but measured. The recruits straightened immediately. Even the most arrogant alien soldier held his tongue. Without a word, Surath approached Myra's position. His shadow fell across her and the rifle both. "Continue," he said, his voice low, resonant, and carrying the weight of command. Mira resumed her adjustments, acutely aware of his attention. When she exhaled, he spoke again, not to her, but to the others. "I sense arrogance in the air," he said. "It poisons learning. Each of you is chosen for this program because you represent your species best. Yet pride blinds even the best to what they might learn." He walked to the window, hands clasped behind his back. Outside, the shooting targets shimmered in the sun. "Our worlds face the Shroud Swarm," he continued. "A species that learns faster than we can evolve, that consumes light and life alike. They do not care for pride, or for which weapon glows brighter. They care only that you die before they do." Silence hung thick. Myra's finger hovered near the trigger. Surath turned to face them once more. His gaze settled on a rifle, then on the aliens. "Every tool has purpose. Every tradition holds memory. Dismiss neither, or you will fall ignorant into the grave." Mira caught a flicker of something in his eyes, a recognition, perhaps even respect. Rithak shifted uneasily beside the consoles, no longer smiling. Cyrith's gaze moved to Mira again. "You," he said quietly. "Prepare for demonstration. Let them see what your kind remembers." Mira swallowed hard, nodding once. The command wasn't a test. It was an invitation to prove that even in a world of plasma and light, there was still room for steel, patience, and the heartbeat between the breaths. The test began with a quiet formality that did nothing to calm Myra's pulse. Targets rippled into place across the vast outdoor range, each one programmed to shift, fade, or reappear at unpredictable intervals. The alien recruits lined up at their designated stations, their energy rifles floating to firing position as though moved by invisible hands. Rithak gave Mira a sideways glance, smugness already returning to his posture, but he said nothing. The silence felt heavier than any taunt. Mira checked her rifle one final time, fingers brushing the worn grooves along the barrel. Marks from years of training, from her father's steady guidance, from a legacy that few here understood. The first Varkun stepped forward, his weapon responding instantly to his neural command. A thin lance of concentrated energy cut across the field, striking a target that shimmered into view at nearly 1,000 meters. It dissolved on impact, leaving behind only a soft crackle of light. The aliens murmured approval. Rithak's turn followed, and he made a show of inhaling deeply, as if channeling ancestral spirits. His beam shot outward in a perfect arc, hitting every target the system spawned for him. The approval from his peers was immediate and enthusiastic. He turned to Mira, his grin sharpened by confidence. "Your relic won't even reach half that distance," he said. "Perhaps you should request a more contemporary tool." Mira didn't rise to the bait. She knew any reaction would only fuel their disdain. Instead, she adjusted the elevation knob on her scope, grounding herself in routine. Her breath evened. Her heartbeat steadied. Still, anxiety curled inside her chest like a fist. The aliens excelled at long-range accuracy with the same ease humans use to tie their boots. She, in contrast, had to earn every inch of her precision. Commander Surath approached her quietly, his heavy footsteps muted by the soft flooring. He knelt beside her, his armor humming with restrained power. Without looking at her rifle, he spoke in a tone that was barely audible. "You doubt yourself," he said. "Yet your doubt is misplaced." Myra's throat tightened. "They're good. Better than I expected." "They are precise," Surath said. "But precision is not mastery. Energy obeys thought. Metal obeys truth." He finally turned his gaze toward her, the faint glow of his eyes reflecting against her scope. "The shroud swarm fractures light. They do not fracture steel." Mira frowned, uncertain where he was leading. Surath leaned closer, lowering his voice even more. "Your people learned something long before the stars opened to them. Something simple. Something the others never had to understand." She swallowed. "What's that?" "That a single well-placed bullet changes the outcome of a war," he said. "Only American snipers learn to breathe between heartbeats. Show them what that means." His words slid into her like a key turning in a long-locked door. She inhaled slowly, letting the tightness in her chest loosen. When Surath stood and stepped back, she no longer felt the alien's laughter weighing down her spine. Instead, she felt her father's voice echoing through memory, steady, patient, unwavering. Rithak stepped aside with an exaggerated gesture. "Let us see the relic perform," he said. "Try not to embarrass your species." Mira lowered herself fully into position. Her cheeks settled against the stock. Her finger found its place on the trigger. The world narrowed until only the distant target existed. Wind brushed the grass, subtle and angled. She adjusted half a millimeter. Her breath slowed. Her heartbeat softened. Then she fired. The recoil pressed her shoulder gently, familiar as an old friend. A distant metal clang echoed across the field. The target didn't just fall, it snapped backward with decisive finality. The aliens froze. Rithak's smirk faded. Mira chambered the next round without hesitation. The moment wasn't over, it was only beginning. Myra's second shot struck before the first target fully reset, the metallic crack echoing cleanly through the range. A faint ripple of disbelief passed through the ranks of Varkun recruits. Their weapons, still humming from earlier demonstrations, suddenly felt less like symbols of superiority and more like fragile ornaments. Mira didn't look at them. She focused entirely on the present moment, on the satisfying rhythm of breathe, align, release. When the third target appeared, smaller, flickering, half obscured by shifting light, she adjusted instinctively and fired again. Another decisive impact rang out. The training hall fell impossibly silent. Commander Surath stepped forward, studying the optical readouts that hovered above her lane. Each glowing marker indicated a perfect hit. No drift, no hesitation. "Observe," he said, turning his attention to the recruits. No neural tether, no automated correction, only discipline, instinct, and a relationship with the weapon forged through repetition rather than convenience. His tone was neither boastful nor reprimanding. It was simply factual, as though he were pointing out gravity or the turning of a planet. Rithak bristled. "Luck," he said, though his voice lacked conviction. He reclaimed his firing position, lifting his energy rifle with practiced ease. A new target shimmered into existence, and he triggered a blast. The beam lanced forward, luminous and precise, yet the target's refractive field bent the shot slightly, causing it to clip the edge instead of striking center. The system marked it as a partial hit. The result drew a murmur from the observing aliens. Not mockery, but discomfort. They were used to being outperformed at their own game. Suroth gestured toward the projection. "Energy disperses under distance and atmospheric interference. Your weapons excel at rapid elimination, but they do not always pierce what must be pierced. You rely on technology to compensate for skill you have not cultivated." Rithak's jaw tightened, the glow along his neck pulsing with agitation. Mira sensed his frustration mixing with confusion, a volatile combination for someone trained to expect dominance. She remembered feeling the same early in the program. Outmatched, alienated, judged by standards she never agreed to. Watching him now, she recognized a shift. This wasn't humiliation. It was the first crack in an unchallenged worldview. She rose slowly, mindful of the weight of eyes on her. "If you want," she said quietly, "I can walk you through how I read the wind and adjust the scope. It's not magic. It's just paying attention." The offer surprised even her. She hadn't planned to extend an olive branch, but the moment called for it. Rithak stared at her, disbelief flickering across his features. His pride wavered, but pride alone wasn't enough to steady him. He didn't respond. Before he could gather his thoughts, a blaring alarm shattered the stillness. The range lights shifted from white to urgent red, and a synthesized voice boomed overhead. Unscheduled combat simulation initiated. All recruits to formation. Scenario: perimeter breach. Cyrith's posture straightened, and he scanned the recruits with renewed sharpness. "This is no demonstration," he said. "This is assessment. You will move as units, not rivals." His eyes fixed on Mira. "Dalton, you will take Overwatch for Fire Team 2. The sudden shift tightened her stomach, but she nodded without hesitation. She slung her rifle and jogged toward the deployment corridor. Behind her, the Varkun recruits moved with mechanical efficiency, though Rithak hesitated, glancing again at the far-off targets she had struck so effortlessly. Something unsettled him, something larger than wounded pride. As the blast doors opened to reveal the sprawling simulation field, Mira exhaled slowly. The transition from controlled marksmanship to unpredictable combat was abrupt, but familiar. She could feel the weight of responsibility settling over her, heavier than any alien's judgment. Above them, the sky flickered with holographic projections of the hostile forms they were expected to face. The challenge ahead was no longer theoretical, and as Mira stepped into the open, she sensed that the true test was only beginning. The simulation field unfolded like a living battlefield, its terrain shifting subtly beneath programmed winds and artificial sunlight. Mira sprinted toward the raised observation platform that served as her overwatch position, the weight of her rifle steady against her back. Below, Fire Team 2 formed hastily, the Varkun recruits aligning in a tight wedge formation. Rithak lingered near the rear, his posture taut with a tension Mira hadn't seen before. Neither arrogance nor disdain, but an unsettled awareness. The alarm echoed again, and the first swarm drones descended from the projection grid overhead, their angular forms glinting with synthetic carapace. They move erratically, darting in irregular arcs, testing reaction times, probing for weaknesses. Mira dropped into prone position atop the platform and swung her rifle into place. She centered her scope on the nearest drone, tracking its jittery flight pattern. The aliens below unleashed synchronized blasts of energy, their shots forming a luminous web across the air. Some beams landed true, dissolving drones with a burst of blue static, but others refracted off the creature's carapaces, scattering into useless streaks of light. The simulation designers had modeled these drones with the same fractal shelling as the real Shroud Swarm Scouts. Mira felt her pulse tighten. Energy would never be enough on its own. She exhaled and fired. Her bullet tore through the drone's wing joint, sending it spiraling earthward before it flickered out. She adjusted immediately, selecting a second target weaving between the alien's firing lanes. Another precise shot landed, shattering its core. Below, Rithak glanced upward, his eyes following the arc of her kill. The hesitation in his earlier expression was gone, replaced by a dawning understanding. The simulation intensified. More drones poured from the artificial sky, moving in chaotic clusters designed to overwhelm coordinated teams. The Varkan recruits widened their formation, attempting to cover more ground, but the drones exploited every gap. One creature swooped toward the flank, its stinger extended for a disabling strike. Rithak pivoted, firing an energy blast that struck the drone squarely, but the beam refracted again, weakening before impact. The drone faltered but didn't fall. Rithak braced for the counterattack. Myra's shot hit half a second before the drone reached him. The creature's head disintegrated, its body collapsing in a shower of sparks. Rithak froze, then slowly lifted his gaze to her position. She gave a curt nod, already scanning for the next threat. Cyritha's voice boomed across the field. "Dalton, designate priority targets." "Copy," she called, marking 3 fast-moving drones on her display. "Fire Team 2, shift your formation left. Force them into the kill corridor." The aliens obeyed without hesitation, moving with disciplined precision. Mira fired again and again, each shot clearing space for the team to advance. For the first time since she'd arrived at Camp Helios, she wasn't merely tolerated, she was relied upon. Every bullet she sent downrange became a thread binding the team together. As the final drone fell, the simulation dissolved into a haze of fading light. The field returned to its dormant, unthreatening state. Mira rose slowly, adrenaline still humming through her veins. Fire Team 2 gathered at the center, uncertain whether to celebrate or reflect. Suroth approached them, his armor still glowing with faint electric pulses. "You witnessed today what arrogance conceals," he said. "Each species brings its own strength, but strength unused is weakness. Strength dismissed is ignorance." His gaze settled on Mira, and mastery denied is still mastery. Rithak stepped forward, his chin lowered, not submissive, but respectful. "Your shot saved my life," he said. "Teach me how to do what you do. Not with your weapon, your mind." Mira studied him for a heartbeat, surprised by the sincerity in his tone. "I can teach you," she said. "But it's not just technique. It's patience and humility." "I am learning both," he replied quietly. Suroth looked between them, satisfaction softening the hard edges of his expression. The simulation had ended, yet something far more important had begun. A shift in trust, in understanding, in unity forged not by similarity, but by shared survival. And as Mira slung her rifle and fell into stride beside the others, she realized that for the first time, she wasn't walking alone.